Welcome to the AnyWare Apps podcast segment in the American Business Podcast. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your support. My name is Kevin Deveci, your host. AnyWare Apps are business software products designed for small, mid-size, and enterprise organizations to digitize, automate, and transform business processes. These are modern systems. They are easy to use, quick to deploy, and easy to learn. Today, I have a guest in AnyWare Apps podcast episode. Sydney Paiko is with us. Sydney will perform a demonstration, and you'll see one of the AnyWare Apps products in action, and you'll learn about features and benefits of the software. Sydney, if you are ready, please take over the screen and perform your demonstration. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the AnyWare Apps podcast. My name's Sydney Pacheco. I'm a pre-sales software specialist at AnyWare Apps, and today I'll be walking you through the Asset Management Anywhere software. When you first open up the Asset Management Anywhere, it brings you to this dashboard page with a configurable dashboard that gives you quick information about your different assets and work orders. So right now, this is showing me all of the data on all of my different plants that I would be managing, but you could use this filters button up here to filter by specific sites, departments, areas, or stock rooms. For example, if I only wanted to filter by the Springfield plant, I would just select that. Then the dashboard will update. So you have 67 overdue work orders for the Springfield plant assets. And then it'll show you, for example, your down assets, your open work orders, and more. If you go down here, it gives you a module where you can view your work requests awaiting approval. And here you can quickly view key information about them and either approve or reject them right away. Over on the bottom right-hand side, there's a new unassigned work orders module. From here, you have different actions to choose from. You can either print all of them out. You can assign them to a specific user. You can enter a time that the work order was completed. You can also view a labor summary of the unassigned work orders. So for example, if I wanted to view this one, it'll tell me who would perform it, the asset, the labor hours, the labor costs, start date, and the time type. For certain work orders that require an assessment, you can use the assessment button. So for example, for this work order, it would bring you to this page where you would then perform an inspection. You just inspect the seals. You could add any comments if you would like. And you just input all of your data here, and then you would just press save. And finally, you can decide to close but not complete a work order. Additionally, you could expand and collapse this dashboard. So let's say you don't want to see all these modules, it's just too much information. You can collapse all of it, and then you would choose which specific modules you would want to view. And that allows you to really hone in and focus on specific details. And then you can choose to expand all of it again if you'd like. Up here, as you can see, it auto refreshes every 5 minutes, but you could also change that setting. So if you go here, you can make it refresh after every 8 minutes or every 3 minutes, however many minutes you would like, and then you just press update, and then the information would refresh accordingly. Now I'll show you the Assets tab. If I just wanted to view the assets by a list, I would go here, and it'll bring me to this Asset Finder page. So down here, it'll show you all of your different assets and their descriptions. It'll show you their asset ID, the site that they're at, their department, manufacturer, and more information if you scroll to the right. These colors are different statuses on the assets. If you go to the legend, it'll tell you, for example, red would stand for an asset that's down, or green would be an asset that is running. You have the option to search through your assets using this search bar. There's also a filters option up here. So you can filter assets by ID, description, equipment ID, serial number, and more. You can move these columns around by dragging and dropping them. You could also drag and drop the headers of certain columns in order to group the assets. For example, if I were to drag and drop department to the top, it'll group the assets that share departments together. So the assets that don't have a department would be on the top, assets that are part of the blending department would be here, and more. And if you don't want to do that, you can also just exit out of the group by and then it'll go back to normal. You could also choose to sort your table by clicking on the headers of different columns, and then it'll sort those columns in ascending or descending order. So as you can see, you can sort by multiple columns, or if you just want to sort by one, you could do that. You can also choose what columns are being shown. So right now, any columns with the green check mark will be what's being shown, but you can choose to toggle on different fields, such as the asset type. You can also remove any columns that you don't want to see. So let's say I wanted to view a specific asset. You could look up the asset that you want to view in here, and you would just click into the asset that you want to see. And it'll bring you to this page, which will just show you some general information on that asset. So on the left side, you can tab through the general, performance, and maintenance information. And then on the right side, it shows you the details of that asset just overall. So its status, its change date, equipment ID, and more. You can also click under asset structure. Certain assets will have different parent assets, and you can see an asset tree just to see all of the different related assets. Under general, you can look at the manufacturer ID for that asset. You can view any financial information, such as the salvage value, the current value, the depreciation life, and more. You have the cost of the asset ownership over the last 12 months from the year to date, as well as just the total costs. You can also view any conditions being monitored. So for example, here, one of the conditions being monitored is the pump's pressure, and it'll show you the last update for that specific condition that's being monitored and what the value was when it was updated. You also have this tag history for the tag that's monitoring that asset. You could also link more tags, which will all be listed here. Under machine attributes, you'll see the machine's attributes. So if it's in a confined space, if it contains asbestos, and more. If you have any specific notes and files, you can keep them all here. And finally, there's an activity log in the general section that shows you the different transactions that occurred under that asset, when they occurred, and a description of that transaction. Under performance, here you can view production information. So you can set if you want to be emailed when this asset is down and what the notification email would be, and more here. Under downtime, you'll see the downtime of that asset if there is any. And you can also add in any downtime records in order to have a log of that. You can also set performance tags here in order to track how economical your asset is, the speed, breakdown frequency, durability, and more. We also have an overall equipment efficiency history tab. And here you can add any productions that were run with that asset. You can look at the recent history by schedule, production, downtime, and changeovers. And then these are some visual charts of the OEE history. So as you can see, the availability was at 100%. Under utilization, you can see how many hours this asset was used. You can add a utilization value if you want to track by something besides hours. It'll show you the history of when and why that asset was used, who the user was, and more. And then you have a chart down here of the utilization history as well. Finally, under performance, we have operators. So this is where you would assign operators for that asset. And this way you ensure that only operators that are qualified to operate certain assets can operate on it. Finally, we have this maintenance tab, and the purpose of this tab is to plan ahead for maintenance, because the goal of this software is to incorporate preventative maintenance in order to extend the lifetime of your assets and reduce maintenance costs. You would include any of your linked procedures, such as the pump inspection. If you scroll down, you'll see assessment procedures that were performed on that asset that you can look through. We also have a linked work dropdown, which will show you any upcoming, outstanding, or open work orders for that asset in order to ensure that your asset is being maintained proactively. Here you can view your outstanding work requests, and then these are just open work orders that aren't necessarily outstanding. for that asset. You can see the work history for that asset. So you'll see the work order number, the work requested, and more information to the right. And we also have linked parts to that asset. When you scroll down, you'll also see the history of any parts that are linked to this asset and any work orders that were completed on those parts and why. We also have condition-based action triggers. You can add action triggers that will trigger a certain action based on certain conditions being met. Finally, so you have the ability to save your information down here, of course. You can create a work order down here. You can copy the asset, or you just go back. We also have this menu where you can change the ID of the asset, refurbish the asset, deactivate it, or get a barcode for the asset. So we don't only have a list view of the assets. Something that some companies really like to use is the facility view. So if you go to here, you can choose what facility you want to view. So I'll click Springfield plants. And as you can see, you have the option to actually upload a blueprint of your facility, and then you can pinpoint in that blueprint where different assets would lie. And if you hover over the different assets, it'll say what the asset name is. You have this legend up here to view the status of your assets. For example, asset pump 102, as you can see, is degraded. And if you go back, you can also toggle on the organization view. And here you can view an asset tree. So the asset tree is broken down into different hierarchical levels. So it starts off with all of the different sites that your assets would live in. And if you drop down on a specific site, you can then view all the departments in that site. If you want to drill further into the asset tree, you can choose a department and it'll show you the asset and then any sub-assets of that asset. And this just gives you a bird's eye view of all of your different assets and how they are all hierarchically related. You can click into any of your assets to see where they are on the map view over here. So now I want to show you the work orders tab. So under here, you can view work requests, which can then be approved and turned into a work order. And you also have projects, which are going to be a collection of work orders that work towards a specific project. So I'll start by viewing the work requests. Under here, you'll see a list. All the lists are sortable in the same way I described earlier. As you can see here, you can quickly select a work request and approve it, or if you wanted to view it in more detail, you would click into the work request, and you would see the asset ID it's covering, the work order type, who requested it, why they requested it, and the work requested. So let's say I wanted to approve this work request. It'll then bring me to this page where I could then create a work order based off the work request. And I would just have to fill in more information, like the project that it would be a part of, any tasks, the work requested. I can add procedures that I think might be needed. And then it would go to the work orders page. So the work orders page is going to look very similar to the work requested page, but it'll have some more details. You can reference this legend to see what the different colors would mean. And there's also other information like the asset description, the status, the work requested, the lead that it was assigned to, and the work order type. So if you want to view the details on one of the work orders, you can click into it. And it's going to bring you to this page. So I'll start by showing you scheduling tab. In each of these tabs, it'll show the work requested, any repair comments, and then of course you'll see the assets that the work order pertains to. And when you scroll down, you can see the schedules for the work order. You can add schedules as well. You would just select the person. You would select the start date, estimated hours, schedule priority, and then save. You go down, you can also set reminders and notifications. So you can set the recipients, add a custom message, and you can send this reminder a certain number of days ahead of time. Next, we have work completion. So this will show you all of the different procedures that were completed, compliance documentation where you can attach permits, and we have labor records. You'll have a log of all of the work that was created under this work order. We also can view any parts that were needed for this work order. You can view any purchases or create purchases here. And you can also select equipment that might be needed to complete the work order. You just search through your asset finder, which will pop up, and find the equipment necessary and add it onto here. Here you can see when the work order was requested, created, started, and completed, the amount of time that it took, the labor time. You can see a summary of the cost. If you scroll down, if there are any attached files for this work order, you can see them here. And then if you click into the activity log, you can see all of the different transactions, when they took place, their description, and who completed those transactions. Finally, you can also view your projects, which, as I said earlier, are just a collection of work orders. So you have the project ID, some important project information like the status, the total hours, the total miscellaneous costs. You scroll more to the right, you can see the site that the project is assigned to. You can see non-service work costs and other costs over here. To view the details of one of these projects, you just have to click its project ID. It'll bring you to this page. You'll see the overall details of the project, like its name, type, the project budget, project costs. Then if you go down here, you can view more details on the project. So first you have this tasks tab. You'll see all the tasks for the project. You can expand this column. It'll show the names of the tasks, the start and end dates. And then over here, you can view the tasks in a week, month, year, or daily view. You'd go to cost allocation to allocate any costs for the project. You just have to add a new record, set the account, set like the allocation percentage, the asset ID, the action. Under miscellaneous costs, you can also add records for any miscellaneous costs. You would just put this cost date, the total amount, the unit cost, quantity, and description. Under work, you'll see all of the different work orders and the work order history, as well as the work order requests under this project. Under purchases, you'll see all the purchases for the project. So the estimated purchase order cost, the invoice PO cost, and the PO cost. So you'll see all the project purchases here. In purchase requisitions, you can see any requests for purchases that need to be approved for this project. In activity log, you'll see all the activities for this project. And finally, you can attach any notes and files to the project. There's also a quick actions menu down here. Right now, as you can see, the project is on hold. You have the option to reopen the project or to start it. You can print the project details. You can create a work order for the project. Next to work orders, we also have a recurring work tab, so you can create any preventative work orders. Under here, the admin would create different procedures and work definitions, and then using those, you can create recurring work. First, I'll just show you the view of the recurring work. So these are all of the different recurring work orders that were created. If you wanted to create a new recurring work, you would just press that from the drop-down. And you would have to choose the work order type, so I'll just say inspection, the craft, the shift, priority. You can estimate how long it's going to take and assign it to a specific lead. And then you can send notification emails so that they're alerted when this recurring task needs to be completed. Down here, there's more details that you would have to put in. So you can add this specific assets that, for this example, would need to be inspected. So I'm going to put it in a grid view and just look for a specific asset. And then you just select the asset. Under trigger info, you'll see what triggers this recurring task to occur. So right now it's set for date, but you could also trigger it by utilization or by both. And you can set up the amount of days beforehand that you want the work order to be created. And you can select the future work orders to be due either after the completion of the recurring task or after the recurring task was due. Finally, you have procedures and parts, so you'll add the different procedures that are needed for the work order. And then you could add any parts that are needed for the work order. There's also the ability to import a work definition. So if someone created a work definition ahead of time, you wouldn't have to go through and manually put in each of these details. But you can also manage your inventory in this software. So you have the option to create an item. You can create a serialized items inquiry. You can approve inventory counts, count inventory, transfer inventory, do non-purchase order receiving. You can print labels and view items. So first I'll just show you the view of the items. So this is the list of your spare parts. So it'll show the description of the items, how many you have on hand, their location, as well as costs, preferred vendors, and more. You can create a new item up here. And you would set the item type, item class, item number, description, preferred vendor. You'd configure all of this information for the item, and then it'll show up in your inventory. You can also view and approve inventory counts. So these are the inventory accounts ready for approval. So you'll see the actual count, the system account, the description of the item being counted, who counted it. You can see the effective on-hand information. You can select one or more inventory counts and either approve or reject them. We also provide you the ability to print labels for your different spare parts, and you can transfer your inventory as well. So if you go to transfer inventory, you'll see what items were transferred. Moving on, you can also go to the purchasing tab to manage all of your purchases and your vendors. I'll show you first the view of the purchase orders. In this view, you'll see the purchase order number, the vendor name, the order total, the status, and more information here. You can select one of the purchase orders to view if you wanted to see more information. So it'll show you the overall information, and then down here you'll see details like the line items that were purchased, the general information, the vendor information, any receipts, as well as activity logs. You can also view all your different vendors. You can click into any of them and view their details. So you'll see details such as their address, profile, any e-commerce integration with that vendor, what facilities they're available to, any parts that are specifically sourced from that vendor, activity logs with the vendor, and any notes and files that might be needed to attach to that vendor. You can, of course, also view requisitions and approve them to become purchase orders. If you wanted to create a purchase order, you would just go to that tab and you would have to fill in all of this information. So the purchase order number, the vendor, you have to choose the line items in the purchase order, the general information, and all of the other information that we saw earlier. We also have the ability to receive purchase orders. So this will show you all of your purchase orders that were either partially received or released. And you can go through them and select the purchase orders and receive them accordingly. Under issuing, we can track when items are assigned to individuals. So you can view the issues here, first of all. It'll show you the order number, item number, the description, and who it was issued to. So in order to issue an item to a person, you would click Issue Item, and you would then either choose one or multiple items that you want to issue and select them, and it'll show up here. You would obviously have to set the stock room, and you can add comments and more. And then it'll show up under the view issues. You can also, of course, create and view reservations. So for example, if you need to reserve equipment for a specific amount of time, that would be done here. It'll show you all the reservation information, including due date, the date entered, the stock unit, who entered it, any alternative parts if needed. Finally, we have reporting. So you'll have different company reports, and these are all configurable depending on your business needs. If you wanted to run one of the reports, you would just press run, and you can also choose what type of report you want it to run as. You would set the date that you want the report to pull data from, and you can choose whether or not you want it to show details, and then you would just press run, and then you will get the report. Then you can open it, download it, and view and share the report from here. There's also forms that you can run. If you wanted to edit and copy a form, you just select the edit and copy button. This will show you all the fields, operators, and values for your fields. You can set your different filters and more additional filters all down here. You can also set properties in columns. And that's everything for the supervisor view. There's different views for different roles. So for example, if you're a technician, you wouldn't have all of these admin capabilities that a supervisor would have. So I'll quickly just show you the technician view just to show you that it does get simpler depending on what your role is in the company. This is what a technician would see. So they'll see all of the work orders that were assigned to them. They can create a work order if needed. They can view the work orders in a calendar view. They can also view their recurring work orders. They can view purchase orders or create purchase orders. They can issue items, view issues, view reservations, and create reservations. As you can see, their view is much simpler. We also have a view for operators, which I'll show you now. Here, the operators only have these specific functions that they can complete in the asset management software. So you can change an asset as an operator, assign operators, set asset statuses, create a work request, complete a TPM, create a recurring work order, and all of these other functionalities here. So as you can see, the data that you're able to view and manipulate kind of funnels down depending on what your function is within the company. And that's everything I wanted to show you for the Asset Management Anywhere. Thank you for having me on the AnyWare Apps podcast, and I hope you have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed the demonstration performed by Sydney Parico from Team AnyWare Apps. If you'd like to learn more about AnyWare Apps, please visit the website anywareapps.com or scan the QR code on the screen. There is more. If you'd like to reach out to me directly about AnyWare Apps, please send me an email, kevin@kerrconsulting.com, and I will be happy to coordinate a follow-up meeting with you and Team AnyWare Apps to talk about your business process automation, digitization needs, expectations, business requirements, and I'll make sure that AnyWare Apps team will also share more insights with you to address your requirements. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for your interest, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the coming AnyWare Apps podcast episodes. Thank you and have a great day.